Welcome to Onest. In today's episode, we're meeting the founder of the Borderlands Foundation, Samuel Cook. Sam graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point in 2000 with a degree in European history. He was then commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Army Cavalry. During his first tour in Iraq, he served as regimental adjutant for Colonel McMaster during the Battle of Tal Afar, where he helped handle the media and craft the narrative that this was a turning point in the war. After serving as a troop commander during the surge in 2007-8 in Tigris River Valley, Sam was selected to go back to New York University to study Russian history and then went on to teach Russian history at West Point. After he left the army, he moved to Poland in 2014 and founded James Cook Media, where he created a world-renowned marketing course for business owners on how to use storytelling to craft authentic, powerful marketing campaigns. In 2018, he moved to Kiev, Ukraine, where he founded a tech startup that was selected for LA Tech Stars in 2021. When the war started in 2022, he founded the Borderlands Foundation. He lives in Kiev with his wife, Katerina. Please welcome Samuel Cook. Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so honored to talk to you.
Well, thank you, and it's an honor to be on your show.
Absolutely. I'm so impressed with everything you have achieved. So can you tell us what actually motivates you to transition from a very distinguished military career into really moving to Poland and starting James Cook Media?
Well, I had a great experience in the U.S. Army. I did everything that I wanted to do in the Army, which was command soldiers in combat. And then I had the opportunity. I was going to leave the Army after that and go into business. But my boss said, "What's the one thing that I could give you that would keep you in the Army?" And I said, "Well, I want to go teach history at West Point because history has been my passion since I was little." So I stayed in to teach history. I was asked if I wanted to teach Chinese or Russian history, so I said Russian history because my undergrad was in German military history, and I just had a great experience teaching, and that's how I fell in love with Ukraine. I studied Ukraine as part of my graduate studies at New York University. But after that, I'd done everything I wanted to do in the Army, and I really wanted to go into business. And because I'd studied about Eastern Europe, specifically Ukraine, I wanted to live in this part of the world. So traveled around the world for a year, saw Asia and Europe and Australia, and I realized when I was traveling that I loved Europe, wanted to live here again. I lived here as a small child and for 9 years in Ireland, and then again 2 years in Germany. So I just loved it here. Moved to Poland. I would have moved to Ukraine in 2013 or 14 probably, but the country was under a lot of turmoil at that point with Maidan and then the beginning of the war with Russia. So I decided Poland was the place to settle down, but visited Ukraine for the first time in 2014 and was fascinated by it, Odessa and Kiev, and I also saw the aftermath of what happened in the center of Kiev, and ended up hiring a lot of Ukrainians in Poland. So got to know the country and the people very well.
But really, for me, as a Ukrainian-born person, to hear that you were studying Russian history and fell in love with Ukraine through that's just mind-blowing. That's what we always try to convey to people, that we have history, we have traditions, we have so much to us that differentiates us. Not to say somebody is better or worse, but really there's so much depth to it. So really, I think everybody would be so happy to hear that. And now, so you started a tech startup. And combining that experience and also the storytelling that you focused on, how does that help you now with the Borderlands Foundation?
Well, when I left the Army, I started a media agency called James Cook Media. It was actually named after my little brother who passed away in 2013. And that was very traumatic for me. It was my little brother. I kind of raised him in a big family. And so I wanted to do something I was passionate about that he would have loved. And, he was a musician, a composer. And what I started doing was telling stories for small businesses in a way that they could be proud of. Because people hate to get on camera and ask for money and feel kind of, not very great about, selling, right? And I think the best selling to me is storytelling. Just tell your story, tell the story of the people that you help. Tell people why you're passionate about what you're doing, and then let your customers tell your story for you. Your customers will say much better things about you and be much more convincing than you ever could. So I started doing documentary film style marketing, and it just took off. It became a huge hit. We sold millions of dollars of training online for storytelling in the digital age, our master class, and we decided very early on that I hated all the software that was out there. So started building my own landing page builder, and then that turned into a huge project, an internal project for several years, very expensive. And it grew to the point where I had to raise money to continue building it. So I started a tech startup when I moved to Ukraine in 2019 called Sanity Desk. Those were very different careers than a military officer. So a lot of people said, how the heck did you go from being a combat commander and a historian into storytelling and technology? And I said, yeah, that is kind of strange. And I always had this feeling that I had like two different careers and lives, and they weren't that integrated. And sometimes you think, well, why did I do all that military stuff? And then 24 February 2022, everything changed because, I chose Kiev as the city that I called home in 2018. I moved there, started my tech startup there, met my wife there. Been happier in Kiev than I've been, I think, in any other place I've lived in my life. And I love doing the tech startup. I love my media agency, which I still own, and was running with other leadership because I was just the owner, didn't have time to run it. But then all of a sudden, everything became not that important to me because I'm a historian at heart. That's what I've been passionate about since I was little. That's what I did when I was very little with my dad. He was a history teacher. I read history to get its attention in a big family, 35 children. And for me, the war made very clear. 3 days after the war started, I told my co-founder, I no longer have any interest in this project. I told my investors, I told my board, I told my team. Some of them were upset, but for me, it was very clear. I couldn't continue doing something I wasn't passionate about because when the war started, I just knew that the role I see for myself is the storyteller, a chief storyteller for Ukraine through history. And the war is not over, so the history is a distant project in a lot of people's minds. But I decided with my wife to move back to Ukraine after we left right before the invasion because I didn't see any real preparations by the government to fight back, and I thought it was going to be very difficult. So I took my team to safety. Two of them probably would have been killed. They lived in Bucha and Hostomel, young men. So I was very proud of what we did to take care of our team, even though the tech startup ended up having to close down several months later. But the foundation kind of unified everything I've done in my life. The only way to raise money for a nonprofit is to tell stories. I mean, it is so important because when I'm buying something from a business, I always used to say you buy on emotion but justify with logic.
Yeah.
But when you donate to a nonprofit, there's no justifying with logic. It's an irrational decision to give money to a nonprofit because it's really just about a cause, right? And so storytelling, I think, fundamental to any decision, but especially nonprofits. From the technical side, running a tech startup taught me how to build a big team. Taught me how to run organization. Just made me a much better businessman. I raised several $1 million and managed a large team, built a large team, learned how to hire, learned how to do all the things you need to do to run a successful business. So starting the Borderlands Foundation, I was able to treat it like a startup. I went and earned some money. I instead of trying to do it all myself as a volunteer, I hired an amazing director, probably the best leader I've ever hired, and that's saying a lot because I've hired a lot of people. Dmytro, and I just delegated everything to him in the extreme. I said, "Hey, I trust you to run this thing. So let me go find the money. Let's do something big like the U.S. Ukraine Summit, Freedom Summit that we're doing now in D.C. and our golf tournament." And that's taken a lot of money and time and effort. And it, through the foundation, there were several times that I thought it wasn't going to work, and that I may need to just, you know, stop because, don't throw all your money away if it's not working.
Right.
But I was able to treat it like a startup and hire a team, build a team, and fund it. And now we're starting to see a return. We've already raised enough money to successfully run this huge event coming up. We've got a lot of very famous people already signed up, like General David Petraeus, Buck McKeon, the former chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. Just some really big people are signing up for it, and it's amazing to see a startup, get off the ground, like the foundation we just built.
It reminds me on Steve Jobs' story where he said that you can only connect the dots in retrospect when you look back, right?
Yeah.
When you are in the middle of it, you never understand. I completely relate my story wise, but really everything you've done gave you all the tools in that superhero toolbox to build something special now. And really, I think the sense of service and then sense of business knowledge and sales, that's just everything that Borderlands Foundation needs to be successful, and it is successful. So, really huge compliments. And doing all that through the war, that's just incredible. And I wanted to ask about you, and you mentioned your wife, Katerina. How does it feel to do everything you do in Ukraine right now? Because we see pictures, we see videos. Some people are just scared. Some people, in all honesty, try to ignore it because it kind of makes them feel a certain way. But to hear it from you, you work on peace, you work on diplomatic connections, raising funds while being in danger zone. What helps you? What to build the foundation, and what sort of disturbs the work?
Well, first of all, my wife, when we were going to move back to Ukraine, was a little bit worried about how our nervous system would respond to being in a dangerous place. Kiev has been a huge target over the time we've been there. We've suffered through a lot of sleepless nights and airstrikes and missiles landing pretty close to where we are. So there's been some moments where it's been difficult, but um, I think what I've always found when I was commander in Iraq is the toughest times when you're doing something really important where the stakes are really high and there's a huge amount of pressure, also are the most rewarding and memorable times of your life. So for me, there was no way we could sit this out, and it was also probably a little bit of a test for me to see if my wife would be up for that. And her coming home to her country, she's so happy she did it. I mean, she loves being here in Ukraine. It's funny, when I met her 2018, I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm not your ticket to America. I do not plan on moving to America. I'm not going to get you a green card because we'd have to go back and live there to do that, and I just don't want to do that. So if you think I'm your ticket to America and living there, go find another American guy." And she said, "No, that's not what I want." So, and I tested her on it. We moved to America right after the war started. We traveled the whole country, and I said, "Okay, we're going back to Ukraine." She said, "Yeah, okay." And she was a little bit nervous, but we did it. And when we think it's tough in Kiev, I just look at the guys on the front lines, and I've been out to visit them a few times with some of the war analysts that we support, and that's a different world, right? And that I was in Iraq, but what those guys are going through is nothing, or is everything. What we went through in Iraq was nothing compared to what they're going through on the front lines. And I just say to myself, well, being part of something that's bigger than yourself, like a unit, a tech startup in the Army, where you have that really big mission and you're doing something really hard, is rewarding. And Ukraine is a country, I hate to say it, but after the war, in a weird way, people are going to look back at it and say, "I missed that." Right?
Yeah.
because of the meaning and the sense of togetherness and the community. Although we all want it to end because it's horrible. But that's what I found when I left Iraq was a lot of soldiers struggle with mental health issues because PTSD is three things: moral injury of taking someone else's life. That's hard. It impacts you whether you admit it to yourself at the time. It does.
Right.
Secondly, is losing friends or seeing people and wondering why you survived. And then the third part of it is really that sense of loss of connection. And war is horrible, and there's so much hate involved in it, but so much love and connection with the people you're serving with. So, and your family that you're fighting for, and your country you're fighting for. So, I think that's what people are going to experience when this is all over, and there's going to be psychological cost to it, and that's what the Borderlands Foundation's mission is to make sure Ukraine's heroes are never forgotten, so that their story is told to the world, so that we never forget. We learn the lessons. We build a powerful country. It's going to be my children's country too. They're going to grow up Ukrainian and have this crazy American dad, and go spend summers in America. But and then secondly, history is built through stories, and stories have costs, right? There's psychological trauma that's involved with all these experiences. And I had that myself from Iraq. I dealt with that with some breakthrough PTSD, psychedelic assisted therapy. And I want to bring that to Ukraine. I want to fund it. I want to fund clinical trials, the research, the advocacy, and pay for as much as we can afford. So that's what the Borderlands Foundation is going to work on, is building a national history center and a national PTSD center, research center for Ukraine.
And this is huge because we see people who are hurt visually, and raise funds to help people somehow to find a sense of life or a standard of life that they can sustain themselves. But the mental aspect of it is already now, and the aftermath after the war that will be felt, I think, for generations. Because if I see, not just soldiers, but also when you see pictures of kids when they look at their house and it is destroyed, it's not a kid anymore. It's a little human with a big problem and really lack of processing skills at that point. And meanwhile, adults not knowing how they would process themselves too. So it's really a big deal. And what you do is really so important. And that leads me to the event and the US Ukraine summit. What is the main intention for the summit first? Let's talk about the summit and then golf tournament.
Yeah, so the U.S. Ukraine Freedom Summit is something. It's funny, when you hire a great leader and director and a team that thinks, you get lots of feedback. And Dmytro and I originally were, my original idea was, hey, let's get together, have a golf tournament, and raise money for my history center, because that's what I want to raise money for. But then, as we were thinking about it and discussing it, we realized, and Dmytro had this insight, hey, during the war, it's very difficult to get people excited about history when the future is so uncertain. Why don't we focus all of our efforts on the PTSD fundraising? So we said, okay, let's pivot. And that really opened up our ability to get interest. General Petraeus signed on after we made that change. He was very much more enthusiastic about it. So we knew it would be a lot easier to raise money for it. So that was the original plan. But then, it takes a while to fill an event when no one knows who you are and what you've been doing. We built a team. It was new. We were getting together, and it's just been a lot of work getting it off the ground. And finally, we got a major sponsor, National Association of Ukraine Defense Industry, which is an organization at the top private defense companies in Ukraine that are doing amazing work, innovating on the battlefield, trade association, nonprofit. And we said, okay, well, you're going to help us pay for this. You're really helpful. Thank you for that. And then we started to think, well, okay, that's great that they're paying for this, but how do we help them, add value to them as an organization? So we come up with the idea of a conference before the golf tournament. So we said, okay, let's just call it a summit. And instead of doing a 2-day summit, we decided on a 3-day summit, because The first day is about winning the war. And how do you win the war? We want to connect the top policymakers, defense companies in America with the top defense companies in Ukraine to say, how do we solve the problems you're having? Like, what's stopping you from producing more weapons, innovating more? And how can you help the U.S.? Because Ukrainian engineers have the most experience in the world of fighting our top geopolitical rival, Russia. So it's a really mutually beneficial event, and that gives huge value to our sponsor, which has been so generous to us. Um, and it's important. We want to win the war because then we can write the history and build a better future. The second thing is, okay, day two, well, let's talk about veterans and let's talk about PTSD. Let's talk about all the things that veterans are struggling with, entrepreneurship, um, forum, entrepreneurship panel, PTSD, physical rehabilitation. Um, how do we address that so U.S. veterans can teach Ukrainian veterans? We've had a lot more experience in the U.S. building our veteran system than Ukrainians, and Ukrainians need that guidance, that support. A lot of this psychedelic assisted therapy, breakthrough therapies have been developed in America. How do we get that into Ukraine? And then vice versa. How does Ukraine help America? Well, it's a lot cheaper to run clinical trials in Ukraine. It's a lot cheaper to do all this treatment, get lots of data, and really speed up the innovation cycle with these breakthrough therapies because Ukraine has a huge need and they can't afford the prescription drugs that Americans give themselves to try and solve this, which I believe is harmful. That's my brother was died as a result of a bad interaction of some prescription drugs for mental health. So for me, it's very personal on that front. So that's what day two is all about. And then day three, we've had 3 days together, 2 days together at the day one's for the defense industry, day two's for veterans. People are welcome to come to both days or just pick one. Okay, now let's go celebrate together. Let's bring everyone together at a gala. Um, After the golf tournament, we're going to go play golf. We've trained, and Dmytro is going to talk about our rehabilitation through golf program, which is a mix of physical rehabilitation and mental rehabilitation, which golf is a very mental game. Gives a huge amount of satisfaction to these veterans that we've picked up, who are young kids who've lost everything, right? And they're rebuilding their lives. And we give them something to train for to go to America. We got them their visas. Um, you know, knock on wood, their exit permissions, all that kind of stuff, and paying for their first trip to America for these young kids. And we want them to make connections and get, some angel investor for their future startup or just relationships with people that want to work with them, hire them, whatever, and build this community. My two greatest warrior communities in the world, two greatest defense industries in the world. Build this connections, these lateral personal connections, so that Ukraine has an unbreakable ally in America, which we've seen sometimes is a little bit fickle. That's why we're doing it in Washington. We're inviting congressmen. Former chairman of the House Armed Services Committee is coming, and with his hopefully some of his friends in Congress, General Petraeus, a bunch of his friends. How do we get it so where the people who make decisions never abandon Ukraine because they know these guys, right? And they love them, and they have a personal stake in making sure that, if Ukraine loses, the world as we know it is going to cease to exist. And this period of Pax Americana after the Second World War is history's history's teaches us that when international order breaks down, a lot of people die. And this could be, if we don't win it, just the beginning of a very tragic time in our history. And that's why I want to make sure that we win the war, secure the peace by taking care of the veterans of Ukraine so they can build an amazing country based on the history of what they've just done with mental health, where you leave the bad stuff, which you can do, and keep the good stuff. There's this idea of post-traumatic stress growth rather than disorder, right? Because I don't know anyone in the world who's really successful who's not gone through some hard stuff. A lot of times in childhood or something else. Yeah. And if you leave the bad, you learn how to deal with it. You solve the bad things that come from trauma, and you keep the good, which is that that muscle memory and resilience and ability to put things in perspective. Because when you've been through some bad stuff, like war, fighting on the front line, losing friends, it tends to put everything else in perspective, and that can be a really powerful. Um, the resilience of the veterans that are going to come off the front lines, and the leadership, absolutely unbreakability of their spirit that will save the country and save the West. It will create a powerful country that
Yeah.
will be like the frontiers of freedom out here in Ukraine will be strong and powerful and prosperous, because everyone after this war is going to want to come visit the country,
Yeah.
see what happened here. We're going to run historical tours of see the Battle of Kiev, the Battle of Ukraine, Kherson, Kharkiv, all these areas. Show them the country, so at the end they want to invest in the country. They want to move here. They want to donate to our nonprofits to help veterans. So that's my vision for Ukraine over the next 30 years.
And that's really incredible because um, there's so much depth and so much planning and so much thought and strategy, which is long term, that prompted you to start it in the worst conditions ever when Kiev was supposed to be taking over in 3 days or whatever the talk was. But really to react that I actually want to make change. And this is, I've heard, and for me specifically, my parents lived in Kharkiv, so I got them out of there. So that day when the war started really split the world into black and white, and there is no but, and there is no maybe, or let's see it from another angle. No, there's no angle. There's this and there's that. There's evil, there's good. So I think that you know but people don't tend to think beyond the war. Your vision is really powerful because it gives us solutions and gives people who are suffering from PTSD and coming back from war a sense to live and also reason to do so, which is and practical tools also to be successful. But thank you so much. One thing about the golf tournament. So people are coming to DC. They're going either to 1 day or both, or 3 days to the summit. Are they invited to go to the golf tournament? That's at a very special place. I'll let you announce it, which I think not
Yeah,
any regular American comes into very often. So, how did it
yeah.
come together? What's the vision behind that?
Well, I gave the backstory of our, let's call it, minimum viable product getting off the ground. Was we started with the golf tournament just to raise money, and we realized that we needed to change what we're raising money for right now, which is PTSD treatment and recovery, and then the summit to add more value to people who care about Ukraine. It's great to raise money and donate and play some golf, but people who care about Ukraine want to get involved. Okay, how can I help? Well, if I'm a businessman in the defense industry, how can I help these Ukrainian companies win? Win the fight and solve their problems. If I'm not in the defense industry, but I care about Ukraine. How can I help their veterans? How can I get involved in that? So some people were going to want to go to all 2 days of the summit, and when you buy the summit tickets, you can also check a box and add the golf tournament, so you can spend all 3 days with it. Some people are just going to be interested in one day or the other. The first day, they may just want to go to the defense industry day, but they also want to go to the golf tournament. So you can buy any options: 1 day, 2 days of the summit, and then the golf tournament, or just you can even just do the golf tournament. Maybe you just want to play golf and donate, and have a great gala dinner with General Petraeus and former House Armed Services Committee Chairman Buck McKeon and all their friends, and go to the auction where we're going to be. Oh wow, the stuff we're bringing to the auction is going to be so amazing in terms of people from Ukraine or passionate about Ukraine or military stuff, and so all those options are there. We've made the summer prices really just covering the costs of the food and the receptions at the event. It's even free for veterans and members of the government, and 50% off the golf tournament for veterans, because we obviously want more veterans to come and meet their Ukrainian brothers. It's our first event. It's the first annual. We're going to do this every year for the rest of my career and life, and I hope it outlasts me for sure. And we're really looking forward to having people there and getting this off the ground.
I love this. And you mentioned all the people, but I think to be there with you, to shake your hand, to meet you in person, even express the admiration for everything you're doing, that's, if we talk about storytelling, that's the biggest story. I think that's the main attraction here because you are incredible. What you do is amazing. If there's anything I can do humbly, I will. I'm looking forward to being there, covering everything, for bringing all the content to everybody all across the world. And really, I want to wholeheartedly encourage everybody to come to the event, come to the summit, come to the golf tournament, or if you can't be there, because I personally spoke to several people and they said, I'm just somewhere, then donate, right? Become part of the cause and donate. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear from Dmytro, who will tell us all about the auction and what to expect there. I think you made the best introduction for him ever. When boss introduces you, there's nowhere else to say.
I appreciate it, and I'll just do one better. Look, I'm a visionary and a founder and a strategist, but the best thing I ever did was hire Dmitry and my team and let them do their job. And my job is to get them the money and do the big thinking and the work, but get out of the way and let them work. And that's been amazing. So he knows all the details of this event inside and out and all the things that we're doing, and has built this rehabilitation through golf program and recruited all these veterans and the amount of work that he's had to do and the team's had to do to get this thing together is it blows your mind. And they're the ones doing all the work. So really, they're the heroes of this organization. I just was smart enough to hire the right people and fund it.
I think everything has been said. Now, everybody, you just have to come, meet Sam, meet his team, play golf, or be a part of the summit, which I strongly encourage everybody to do. Especially if you're trying to learn more about Ukraine, you want to go and get the information straight from the source, not from the news. And here's your chance to do it in a very wonderful setting. So thank you so much. We will talk with Dmytro now, and can't wait to hear all the details.
All right, thank you so much.
So here's the superstar. Hi, Dmytro. Your boss just introduced you. So welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much for inviting for an interview. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Your background is fascinating. Where is it? Is it Kiev?
It is Kiev on the streets in the center, in the downtown.
Love it. And I think so many are eager to visit it and visit you and, to experience Kiev when it's safe. And hopefully it will be soon. Now we're all reading your director of operations. Sam just mentioned there's so many operations going on. Can you tell us a bit of what your day-to-day looks like? What are the operations?
The operation means like everything, starting from negotiating with partners, negotiating with veterans. Like I can start from what is most important, I guess, for me and for the veterans. We've started training the veterans even before the tournament because we had to prepare the team. Our goal was to fund these programs after the tournament, but it happened that we started it earlier, and it is great, in fact. And to keep the discipline, I am attending all the trainings myself. We have agreement with 2 golf simulators in Kiev and in Lviv. 2 groups of veterans are training 7 men and 1 woman. All veterans, I'm training with them. And last week we've started going outside on the Kazan Golf Club course. It's near Kiev, where we have done our United by Golf tournament 6th of April this year as a preparation pilot project in Kiev. And now I'm training with veterans because it's my personal thing that I want to be on a golf course at Andrews with the veterans, with Ukrainian veterans, with US veterans, and just to enjoy this day of lifetime.
Amazing. I love it. Can you tell us why golf? Or how did your foundation, everybody came together with the idea that golf is healing? Is it Sam's journey, Sam's experience, himself finding healing by playing golf, or were there studies? What prompted it?
To be true, I had nothing to do with golf 8 months ago, and when I've just started, I went to interview our veterans on their first tournament in Ukraine. It was in Lviv. I've talked to them, I found their stories, and I found it really interesting. That was first time that I've gone on the driving range and did a couple of swings. It was really nice. I found it very good, and I felt the attitude, the atmosphere of unity, and the proper way that golf can heal mentally and physically people. The more I was dedicated into the project, I got to know more about golf, how it is, and now when I'm doing the same thing as the veterans, I understand why it is so important, and that can heal especially the ones that have severe traumas and amputees. It's not an active sport. You can be calm, but still you move. You can work out your prosthesis. You can get better usage of your new body. And we will never understand how it feels to be a veteran, a wounded veteran, to be an amputee. The only thing we can do for the veterans is that we can give them the choice to become someone else, to become even better version of yourself, or to find yourself. And I'm feeling myself that it really helps. Golf helps them to become better morally and physically. Just because if you are having lots of thoughts in your head and you are just not on the course, you will never do a good swing. It's just the rule of golf, and so you need to be able to force yourself to get rid of all the problems, of all the unnecessary thoughts in your head, and just to be on the golf, just to speak, to chat, and have a good time with friends, and to be honest with yourself, because golf, it's all about trust and self-regulation.
I'm learning. This is really interesting, and now I see how it does align, and I'm glad I asked that question because I think people would not understand the connection between it, but really the mental aspect, the physical aspect, also the focus, right, and calming your thoughts. I think those are the core principles of treating PTSD. So I think this is truly amazing. Can you tell us a bit more? Let's start. With Sam, we started with the summit, ended with golf tournament. Let's start with golf tournament here. For those who are just coming to this event, what can they expect? There will be an auction, Sam mentioned. So, what have you guys prepared?
So we've prepared morning 18 holes, Andrews Air Force Base, 18 holes for 5 hours. We are starting 10 a.m. We have already 11 flights, so 11 teams of 4. We have up to 10 Ukrainian veterans that I'm working on. When you've asked about what I'm doing, try to prepare all the paperwork for them in numerous chats to be able to buy them tickets, everything. So there would be one Ukrainian veteran in a flight, one US veteran, and 2 golf representatives from the US. So it would be 10 teams with Ukrainian veterans. There would be just companies and people, partners who really support us, and we really value their support. After that, we will have a couple of hours just to have a rest, to have a shower, to prepare for the gala. The gala will start at 5 p.m. We would have around 1 hour preparation networking. Then we will start with General Petros's opening speech. Also, we will tell about the Borderlands Foundation, about our partners, about our team, which I'm personally very, very grateful for what our Borderlands team done, and the work of our partners. Without them, it never have been and gone so far and never have been realized. So um, everyone would have time to represent why they're here, why they are supporting veterans, why they're supporting the Borderlands Foundation. After that, we would have a very interesting musical performance from the Ukrainian Corps Herdan, and prize auction with lots from Ukraine, pictures, paintings from Ukrainian children, some pots, so Ukrainian handmade special gifts. I wouldn't tell you what exactly it is. Please come and you will see amazing pieces of art from Ukraine that everyone has its own story. After that, there would be prizes, awards for those who won at the tournament, and then just a cocktail reception. Everyone would be enjoying and networking, telling the stories. And my personal opinion, the best thing I want for the Ukrainian veterans is to meet U.S. veterans, to ask about them, about their experience, their stories, and to tell their own. So this unity between nations, our goal is just to make it stronger. That's it.
Well, that's a beautiful story. No, this is beautiful. I really want to be part of it, and I'm sure everybody else too. So what we have here is links mentioned for you, how you can come, and also if you cannot come, what I mentioned earlier with Sam, you can donate and be part of the cause. Which you see the banners here. You'll see everything in description. Please click. Please become part of the cause. Don't postpone it. It's very urgent. Although we speak about it all in such a sort of very easy manner, but it's very urgent. Your help would be very much needed. So donate. You go to golf.borderlands.com.ua/donation and become part of it. Now, if they want to join the event, are there any deadlines, right? So if you go to golf.borderlands.com.ua, you will be selecting your ticket and how you want to join the golf tournament. Now, it is Andrews Air Force Base. There's a lot of security going on. This is really one of the most famous places to be in. So I'm sure there are deadlines. Can you share them?
Yes, there is a couple. First deadline is 21st May. After that date, we are submitting the full list to the Andrews Air Force Base catering. So after that, we can only take plus 10 more percent from the total amount. So after that, it would be just 10 or 15 more spots. And the total deadline is 29th of May. This is the deadline where everyone would need to submit the form for a security check for Andrews Air Force Base. It's their standard procedure. This is 1 week prior to the event. We are giving 2 days just to prepare and gather all the information. So 29th of May, it's like total deadline. But please, if you want to be safe, 21st May, feel free to register. We will meet you in person and you will have a wonderful experience, I promise you.
So you literally have a few days. So you can go on the computer right now, type it up, golf.borderlands.com.ua, or click any link in the description, even if it will take you away from our interview because you've heard enough. You're already in it, and we will see you there. But I really want you to also share it with your friends and family. If you have veterans, if you work in the company where you know fellow veterans are there, their families, their kids, it is important to build a community. What Sam just mentioned, what Dmytro just mentioned, it is a community. It's not just about fundraising. It is about fundraising, but it's really about building community. Show your support. If you have served, help fellow Ukrainian veterans to see that there is life after that. There is life after war. There's families to be built. There's businesses to be built. There's life to be lived. So really share it and be fast. Okay, because otherwise you're going to be calling and there will be no, Anyway, I encouraged everybody. Last thing, summit. What can they expect? This is in DC. This is not at the Andrews Air Force Base. It's in DC in different locations. When you go to the link, you will find everything there. Can you tell us what to expect there? Speeches, workshops, networking. What are you focusing on?
All three that you've mentioned, but the main focus is first day, we're helping Ukrainian private defense companies that are coming, 11 of them in different spheres of defense, to find partners, investments, and joint ventures to do production in Kyiv. This is critical for our nation just to keep the peace and to secure our survival for years long. The second day is focused on what is mentioned before in our speech on veterans, on how we can use US experience, which is the most productive, the most efficient, especially in PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder treatment, and just to help them and give them opportunities and choice in life, how they can overcome their problems and become a full member of our society, whether Ukrainian or American, whatever they want to choose to go and to live in.
And by the way, if you're a veteran in the US and you want to learn about these issues, this is not exclusive to Ukraine. Perhaps you'll find yourself in a situation where you are lacking support or knowledge or really opinion as well. Come and learn. It's really, I think, an experience for everybody. And there's so many people who I personally know who never have been treated after returning home. So don't do this alone. Please join. There's community, there's knowledge, and there are experts. So you can learn about ways to cope with that. Anything we have forgotten? Anything we did not mention that needs to be mentioned right now?
Again, the most important for me personally and for the whole team is veterans, and they are afraid to go to DC. For all of them, it would be almost all of them, 9 of them, it would be the first time they would go to America and even go outside of Ukraine. So as of now, that's their trip of their lifetime. They're a bit worried, and your support there, your presence there, they would just help them to have maybe one of the best days in their life. That's it.
Oh, that is amazing. Yeah, I remember my first time flying to US. I thought, oh my God, do they have 3 ears or 2 ears? It was just different continent. Sounds weird, but really showing love and support is what matters. And this interview is for you here in the US. Come join, whether it takes you a flight, train ride, or a car ride, come join. Right? In order to register for Summit, you go to summit.borderlands.com.ua. Is there any deadline there, or is it a bit more flexible?
No, the registration is open all the time. It's free for government and veterans, and you can come till the last day.
Thank you, Dmytro. Thank you so much, Sam, who is probably watching in the background, and can't wait to meet you in person. And really big congratulations and admiration to everything you do.
Thank you, Olga. You've done an amazing job for us, and it's a real pleasure that you're helping Ukraine. You're part of the cause right now. Your dedication means a lot of us, and it takes so many efforts to bring it all together. And like people like you, like everyone, like amazing people from the US, Ukraine that are helping us. This what gives us force. Everyone, each of the team, to work hard to do the best for the veterans.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you so much for watching. We truly hope to see you at the event, so make sure to check out all the links and information in the description of this episode and subscribe. We have a lot of interviews coming up for you. Thank you for watching.